As we're walking into the entry, there's a big bunny rabbit. It was Robert the cook, and I farted. You remember that?
No.
And this little girl, little bunny goes, "Daddy, the Easter bunny farted." And the Easter bunny starts pointing at me. He goes like this. I said, "Robert, shut up."
The Permission to Party World Tour kicks off September 18th in Rockford, Illinois, the 19th in Milwaukee, the 20th in St. Paul, Minnesota, the 21st in Duluth, Minnesota, followed by Eugene, Oregon, September 28th. Avoid scalpers and go to bert.com to get your lowest ticket price. Here. Yeah. Just get it.
That's where you get it from. Okay.
What the fuck? You can move it. Just move it like this. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Not when you're smoking.
Hold on. Bert,
Here, pass me a lighter.
I can't move.
Pete! You know Pete's leaving me.
I know. I'm very upset.
I know.
I'm more upset than you are.
Why?
I can't get a hold of you. I call Pete and he calls back. I mean, he says something to me. It's like instant.
Yeah.
You're like a day or two later, maybe.
I'm
You
never,
call me at 3 a.m. I'm at the airport, Dad. Yeah, well, I'm in bed, Bert.
Yeah, I'm not good at replying.
You noticed
I've never been good. I've never been good.
Should have been a lawyer.
Here, light your cigar.
Okay, I really feel awkward.
Also, I leave that open to air it out. Let it go through the whole house. Okay. Oh, here, move that chair so there's a little more of a cross section. Do you remember when you could smoke cigars in court?
Yep.
What year was that?
That was in the 70s.
Really?
I had an interesting story.
What was it?
I had a jury trial.
Yeah.
It was a slip and fall. I represented the guy who fell at Busch
Pull this
Gardens.
a little closer. Not too close, but that's fine. Yeah.
At Busch Gardens. I sued Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
And when they had pictures of where he fell. And they had like Big Bird holding the pictures in front of my jury. I'm going, Judge, it's a little bit biased there.
Wait, hold on. They got they brought in Big or like a Snuffleupagus to hold the pictures.
To hold the pictures for the jury, like, who wants to sue Busch Gardens? Everyone loves Big Bird, right? I said to Larry, I said, this is not going well. But we go outside after. Yeah, that's about how the verdict went, too. Client wasn't real happy. But we go outside, and the attorney's name was Dennis Slater. And he lights up this big cigar in the courthouse. Thank you, Peter. Of course. He lights up this big cigar. He does one of these. The bailiff comes out and says, the jury's back. He said, damn it, I didn't even get to smoke my cigar. I said, damn it, I think I just lost. Oh, that's Peter.
Yeah.
You found a new livelihood, bud.
You like?
Very good.
That's what Nick does.
Wasn't there a lawyer who had put or did Benny tell me this, or did you tell me this? He put a toothpick in his cigar so his ash would hold on.
Oh. Yeah, I heard that. I think it was Benny Lazare.
I think Benny told me.
Because it's very distracting for everyone to see.
It would be a long ash, and he'd sit there as the guy was giving his closing arguments.
The ash would be like 3 inches long.
Yeah.
You go, what? Everyone's going, forget what he's saying. Let's watch that stogie. That's burning.
God, when was the last time you were in court?
I think I brought you. No,
For real?
It's got to be 20 or 30. Well, I showed up about 10 years ago. I went to court, and the judge said the same thing. He says, when's the last time you were in court? I said, Judge, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
No, it was, when I first started practicing, I was there all the time because I did anything to make $1.
Yeah.
then when I had choices, I stopped going.
Yeah.
It's a bit stressful.
You hated it.
I more than hated it. I mean, the responsibility drove me insane,
Really?
especially in a domestic relation, divorce with child custody. And I mean, you know what? You go there and you lose something, and your client is going to be without the benefit of whatever you're seeking, whether it's a judgment for money or divorce or child support or custody. I mean, it's a lot of stress.
I can imagine all the stuff that would, I mean, I just as a kid remember stuff coming across your desk that was upsetting.
Oh, yeah, a lot of, practicing law, real estate's a little different,
Yeah.
But when you're general practice or do litigation of some sort, it can be very disturbing. I remember talking to a very prominent divorce attorney in Tampa, and he says he took like 1 week every month off. And I said, good Lord, how come? He said, it's so stressful. He said, you have people calling you, women. What do I do? My son's sick. Should I send him to school? Can he go with his dad? Or, you become the surrogate father for the child almost. And practicing law can be stressful. Litigation, particularly, it's a young man's thing.
Yeah.
As you get older, you kind of get away from it and have younger guys take depositions and try cases. Benny Lazare was the exception. He was just fantastic.
Yeah.
But he had a personality that jurors loved.
Well, he was so likable.
Oh, and laid back. And so, I mean, he talked to people so they understood him. He never was condescending to anyone.
Yeah.
And he's just a very likable guy. And, people want a real aggressive lawyer, but if you get an attorney that can relate to a judge or a jury, you're much better off.
Yeah.
And Benny had a gift for that.
He had a bizarre life compared to ours in that he would represent someone for something wild, and then you'd come home and there would be a monster truck in his driveway. And he'd be like, they didn't have money, so this is how they paid me.
Yeah, well, yeah. He started out doing criminal practice, and he was a criminal defense attorney. In fact, I got appointed in federal court for a money laundering case, and Benny represented one of the people, one of the defendants in it. And I kept calling him saying, what do I do next? I mean,
Yeah.
They appoint you because you're a member of the bar. But I mean, I wasn't qualified to be representing a defendant in a laundering case. Good Lord.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never enjoyed that at all. Larry, on the other hand, it doesn't bother him. He's got a better attitude, and he's willing to go to court. Even these days he goes.
Really? I think I would have made a good lawyer.
Oh, yeah. It's all about relating, I think, to either the judge, the jury, or whoever you're.
I would have made a good lawyer back when I was a kid and we go to those courts. Because I feel like the law system then, with like Harry Coe. Remember Harry Coe?
Do I remember him? I brought you to talk about doing trial work. Here I am, criminal court, really, with Ty Traynor,
Yeah.
and Mel Bass and Judge Coe. And Judge Coe was hanging Harry Coe.
How old was he at that time? Must have been.
He was in his 40s, maybe
No.
late 40s. He wasn't old.
Are you serious?
No, his wife just died this week. His ex-wife
Yeah.
just died this last week, and she was 94.
Oh, wow.
So that's only, 15 years older than me?
Yeah, so you
16
were
years.
probably 30.
You were.
He was probably 45. He was probably 45.
You were at Berkeley as a kindergarten.
I was 6.
Yeah, okay. So I was 31.
Yeah.
He committed suicide, by the way.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Very sad. I liked him. He was very fair. If it was your first offense, you usually got probation. But if it was your second offense or you violated probation, that's when you called him Hanging Harry. But I remember bringing you to court. Remember, he'd say, Mr. Kreischer, who do you have with you? I said, that's my son. He goes, put him up in the witness or the jury box. Remember, you'd sit up there.
Yeah. Those personalities back then were so. I feel like Florida's personalities were large back then.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit different then because there were some big personalities and much fewer lawyers. So
Really?
those personalities stood out more.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, when I was there, I think maybe in 1975 there were maybe 1,500 attorneys in Tampa. Now some of the law firms have that size.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Did you feel like, because when I moved to New York, I felt really like an outsider because all these kids had gone to like private schools and grew up in cities, and they seemed so diverse, and they didn't talk the way we talked in Florida. And then did you feel like that when you came from Philadelphia or New York down to Florida to practice law?
I found it totally different.
What do you mean?
Florida was more laid back.
Yeah.
More casual. When you had a hearing before a judge, you went into chambers. When I had a hearing in Philadelphia, it was an open court. My first time in court in Philadelphia, they sent me there, and I represented Mrs. Rittenhouse.
Wait.
Rittenhouse Square.
Rittenhouse Square, yeah.
I was with a big Philadelphia firm.
Is that firm still around?
What's that?
Dwayne Morris and Heckscher?
It's now Dwayne Morris, yeah.
Really?
But when I interviewed with them, I go in there to interview. Your grandmother, Nana, bowled with Joe Ryan's wife, Joe Ryan being attorney Dwayne Morris, and she mentioned to Nana that they're looking for an attorney. So she came back to the house and told me. So I called Joe, and he said, well, come on in for an interview. I interviewed in Paoli, and then they asked me to interview in Philadelphia on Broad Street. So I walk into the interview, and there's like 4 attorneys sitting there, all Ivy League, probably Penn, Princeton, Yale, whatever, all Ivy League. And they look at my resume. And I remember the managing partner said, where the hell is Stetson? And my immediate reaction was, this ain't going well. I may have a problem. And as soon as he said that, one of the other partners said, it's in Florida. And I thought, I got an ally. He said, Mr. Dwayne went to school there. Dwayne Morris Heckscher.
Yeah.
So at that point, the guy says, let me bring Mr. Dwayne in. Now I'm sitting there, I'm saying, things have turned pretty good for me. Mr. Dwayne walked into the interview, and he shook my hand, and he said, I hear, young man, you're a graduate of Stetson College of Law. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, the Harvard of the South. And he says, let's go to lunch. And I got the job. But the first time I went to court was for Mrs. Rittenhouse. And I show up at court at 8:30 in the morning in Westchester, Chester County. And there must have been 100 lawyers there. And I go, what the hell is going on? I thought I had a hearing. So I go up to the bailiff. I said, tell me what's going on. He said, you got to sign in, and the judge will call your case whenever you come up. And he said, it could be an hour, it could be 6 hours from now. I said, it's not very efficient. But so at the end of the day, they call me up. It's like 4:00. And the other attorney was a young attorney too. We took the bar together. And we were both very nervous. And I gave my argument, and he got up and he kept repeating his argument. And I remember the judge said, there were three panel judge, and one of the judges said, Counselor. The attorney goes, yes, Your Honor. He goes, if there was a bee on your head, would you beat it with a bat? And the guy goes, of course not. He said, well, stop beating us with your bat. Move along. I'm going, whoa. But yeah, that's my first experience in court. I go, I don't think I like this a lot. But it was a great experience.
How much money did you make money when you were trying cases? How does that work? You never have it's case by case, right?
Oh, it's when I went with Dwayne Morris, I got paid, this is 1973. Mm-hmm. I got paid $14,000 a year.
Wow.
About $1,000 a month. And I was the highest paid graduate of my class because everyone else was in Florida. Yeah. They were getting 10 or 12. And it was a great experience with Dwayne Morris. And I met with Joe Ryan. I worked with Joe Ryan for 2 years. He was like my mentor. Yeah. He was only maybe 7 or 8 years older than I was. And I saw him about 7 or 8 years ago. I was in Philadelphia, and I drove to his office. Now, I'm in my 70s. He's 80-something. And I said to him, I said, you were my mentor. And he started getting teary-eyed. And he said, seriously? I said, no, honestly. You told me an awful lot. You told me how to practice law, what I need to do to prepare for whatever it is, whether it's a rezoning or a trial or whatever. And he got very emotional. But he and I had lunch together every day for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, wonderful guy. Ivy League.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite. I think everyone in the Haire family is passed, correct?
No, Maria's still alive.
Maria's still
The
alive.
younger, the
But
daughter,
Ernie's
the younger.
passed, right?
Ernie and David both did.
Yeah.
And married too.
So for anyone listening, I don't know, is Ernie Haire Ford still around?
It was sold.
It was sold?
Yeah, probably 15 years ago.
This is my favorite story. I want you to tell it, but one constant in our life was Ernie Haire Ford. So Ernie Haire Ford was like Elvis, but sold cars.
You're exactly right.
Yes. This is like, I'm talking like there could be a movie made about this family. It's just characters wise. He had 2 sons and a daughter.
Yes.
Maria's
the youngest.
Maria, David, and Ernie.
Ernie, yeah.
Ernie was the oldest.
Yeah, and Ernie was the oldest. David was the middle child, and
Yeah.
he died of cancer in his 30s.
Yeah.
That was tragic.
Ernie was probably most like his dad. David was just, I
David
so
was
badass.
the one, when Ernie died, that took over the dealership. Not Ernie.
Really?
David did, because he was the one. Ernie partied a little bit more.
Yeah, because that was
In fact, I took Ernie says to me, Ernie's got a citation in Pasco County criminal court. Would you go with him? I said, sure. I go up there and we're walking in. The bell goes, hey, Ernie, how you doing? I go, holy God. I said, Ernie, you been here before? He goes, a couple times. Jeez.
Well, Mr. Haire is what I call Mr. Haire was.
Yeah.
He took a liking to you and Larry, and he kind of signed you guys on like a retainer. And the deal was you guys could get cars. And so you guys always had new cars coming in.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing in the world. And then if you went there, everyone knew you guys. So then they knew us. David could barefoot water ski. David lived out on the lake.
Yes, you were at his house on
Yeah.
I forget the name of the lake, but yeah, you water skied at his place.
Yeah. But my favorite story is the one night when you get a call from Ernie.
Oh.
This is like, I don't know why. Just like, it's a good movie twist story.
Well, I'm wondering if I'm going to get in trouble with the bar talking about it, but he's dead, I guess.
Yeah.
You mean when he was, he had a little bit of a car accident. Fender bender, I would call it.
Yeah.
And he told the other driver, I'm going to go back to my house and get my driver's license. And he took off. Well, I get a call from him on a Friday night that the sheriff wants to come by and with the other driver to ID him.
Yeah.
And because the other driver, when he took off, got his license number, so it was a dealer tag.
So it was a dealer tag. So it was
So,
Ernie Haire Ford and was like, oh, there's money to be made here.
yeah, so I go, it's Friday night. I tell
Friday
Mom-
night.
I tell Mom, I got to run to the dealership.
Mind you, we get this story Friday night at home.
Yeah.
I think I was probably 9 years old, 10 years old.
It was like at 6 o'clock because his secretary was still there.
Yeah.
So he said, so I come over there and I said, what's going on? He said, well, the deputy's coming. He says, I had a little accident. And he said, the deputy's coming with the other driver to ID me. I said, okay. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I said to him, do me a favor. He said, what's that? I said, sit on the couch. And he goes, why? I said, just sit on the couch and let me sit at your desk. And I said, but don't say a word to anyone other than hello. I don't want you talking at all. So he goes, oh, okay. So the deputy comes in with the other driver. And the other driver walks in and he goes, that's him, and points to me behind the desk. And I stood up and I introduced myself to the deputy, and the deputy says, you're not Mr. Haire? I said, no, that's Mr. Haire on the couch. And he looks at the other driver and said, are you sure? And he goes, well, I thought it was him, but so the deputy left.
Yeah.
I should have billed Ernie for that one.
You should have been. I think Florida.
But I also had the lemon law case with Ernie.
What was
That's
that?
another call I got. It was a Thursday night. I get a call at home. He says, my Lamborghini is a lemon, and I have to go before a panel of 3 people for the Florida lemon law. And he said, it's a Lamborghini. He said, I paid $120,000 for it. Now, this is in 1992. It's like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know how much $120,000 is today?
Yeah.
It's a nice car. So I go, Ernie, he says, well, I'm doing it myself, but now I think maybe I should have a lawyer. So he said, can you show up tomorrow? I said, yeah, sure. So I show up. You know how much I love that shit.
Yeah.
So it went the entire day. And at the end of the day, the panel of 3 declared his Lamborghini as a lemon. Got all his money back, $120,000 less his mileage or something. Now Larry's at home because we had a party to go to that night. Larry's at home watching TV, and he's watching NBC News. Eric Utley was a reporter. And Larry's at home, and he says, we just learned the largest lemon law case in the country was just rendered in Tampa, Florida, with attorney Al Kreischer. Well, I go to the office on Monday. I'm getting calls from Los Angeles, Vegas, Chicago. Will you handle our lemon law? I have a Bentley that's bad. I'm going, holy God, I don't want to do this. I didn't want to do Ernie's. But now Cotty's going through that.
Cotty's got a lemon.
Yes, he's got a lemon.
God. These are my Tacovas, and they are beautiful. Let me tell you something. There is something badass about being a man, putting on a pair of jeans with just a T-shirt, maybe a hat, and going out to dinner with your wife. You look slick. You look like a badass, and these things are comfortable. Find comfort in the traditions of the West and confidence from making it your own. Tacovas crafts quality Western boots for everyone, from generational ranchers to lifelong cowboys to first-time boot buyers like myself. Whether it's a long day or a big night, your Tacovas are built to last and impress. There's no compromise between quality and style, and dare I say comfort. I can't tell you how comfortable these things are. The first time I wore them was to a Red Clay Strays concert, and I took them out of the box, and I thought, back to like when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to have to break these bitches in. Dude, they were comfortable out of the box. And right now, you can get 10% off at tacovas.com/Bert when you sign up for emails and texts. It's that simple. 10% off at tecovas.com/Bert. Tacovas.com/Bert. See site for details. Tacovas. Point your toes west. I'm not quite as young as I once was, but I care a lot about maintaining my physical and mental wellness. Cornbread, hemp's, CBD gummies are a huge piece of my wellness plan. Bro, inflammation. Go type in Bert Kreischer inflammation. You're going to see all the stuff that comes up. I'm an inflamed dude, and these things are great. CBD is great for inflammation. Cornbread, hemp's, CBD gummies are made to help you feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or you just need a little relaxation. Who doesn't need a little relaxation? They are formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. Let me tell you something. That is Leanne Kreischer's biggest problem is sleeplessness. And these things put her out. Right now, Bertcast listeners can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/Bert and use code Bert at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/Bert and use code Bert at checkout.
Oh, yeah, it's practice law is not what I expected.
Would you do it over again? Would you do the same thing?
Yeah, I love doing real estate.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. I didn't care. I did well in court because when you're insecure, as I have always been in court,
and myself,
you prepare more
than
any other person would reasonably prepare.
There are little things you planted on me that I didn't know would be there for the rest of my life. Like that. When you are insecure, you over prepare.
Absolutely.
And over-preparing is the best thing you could ever do because you go in, that's one. The other one, and I've said this on podcasts, and I don't know if you did this on purpose, or I don't know if you were fucking with my head, but you always told me I loved pressure.
You do.
Well, yeah, I know.
Unlike me.
But I don't know if that's true. Or you just planted into my head.
I'm not sure you love pressure, but you perform best under pressure.
I know, but I wondered if that was real or where you saw that or... Like, because when I did Secret Time, I bombed the first show. I bombed. I mean, and I never bombed with that hour. I murdered that hour every fucking day. And I bombed the first show. And then I had one more show to go. And Leanne goes, well, you know what your daddy says? You love pressure. Enjoy. And then in a weird way, I got really confident and quiet, and I went, "Oh yeah, I do love pressure. I perform best under pressure." I was like, "Oh, I'm going to kill this. This is going to be great." And then when I got done that show, everyone was like, it was probably the best show I've ever performed in my life. That one show, that second show at Secret Time, was the cleanest, tightest, most perfect hour of material. I mean, I think my material's gotten better, but that 1 hour, and then I got done almost like when you get like a close plane flight and you get down and you're like, were we about to die? And I remember thinking that night, I was like, do I really love pressure? Or is that just something you said when we were kids when I was playing baseball?
No. Well, I saw it in baseball. That's where I saw it. I didn't see it in academics. I kept looking. I'd ask Mom, maybe I don't see it. Actually, that's not true. Your senior year Jesuit, if you had an A average, I think you're exempt from final exams, right?
Yeah.
And you're exempt. So maybe it's true. But no, in baseball, you know, I coached you since you were like 8, 10 years old, whatever.
Yeah.
And I could always count on you making contact. You always hit the ball. I never thought you'd strike out.
Yeah.
I always thought he's going to hit the ball, whether it's in play and he gets a base hit or whether it grounds out. But I said he's going to hit the ball.
Do you remember what is your favorite memory of me playing baseball?
Oh.
And I'll tell you 2 of mine.
I'm trying to think. I mean, we had my favorite time was when I coached you.
Yeah.
Because it was so much fun. And I remember on one occasion, which I think was probably sticks in my mind the most, is we used to have practice, 2 nights a week?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're getting ready for a game on Saturday morning, and we sit there as a group. And the parents were kind of intense at times. And Drew McCall said to me, "Hey, Coach," because we sat down and we were struggling a bit. Drew says to me,
I remember this.
He said, "Coach, we're still kids." And I said, "Drew, I know that." He goes, No. I watch cartoons before I come here." And I said, "Drew, what's your point?" He goes, "You don't treat us like kids. You treat us like adults." He said, "There's a lot of pressure you're putting on us." And I thought, I said, the damn kid's right.
Yeah.
So from that point forward, we never had another practice. We had scrimmages.
Yep.
And I would pitch, everyone would get to hit, and everyone would get to run, and we'd have like a scrimmage instead of having practice, instead of hitting ground balls or fly balls and doing all that nonsense. We just had scrimmages twice a week and a game on Saturday. And we ended up winning the championship, getting into the All-Stars.
Hang on. Do you remember what else you installed into that?
No.
You said, "Okay, and if we win."
Oh, Pizza Boy?
We go to Pizza Boy. And man, we started winning like crazy.
Well, we did. What I did is after every game, and we had like an evening game on Saturday, and after every game we would go to the pizza place in Carrollwood, Larry's Pizza, I think
Was it Larry's Pizza?
Yeah. That's the guy who owned it, was Larry. I don't know what the name of the pizza place was. And every night we would go there, and I would buy pizza for the team. There's only, 12 kids?
Yeah.
And their parents and whoever came. And, it cost me like $20 or something, but it became a ritual. And I remember we lost a game. And I think Drew came up to me. He goes, "Hey, Coach." I said, "What, Drew?" He goes, "I guess no pizza tonight." I said, "Hell, we have a pizza, bud." That was a ritual. And that was fun.
Drew McCall was an interesting kid.
Yes, because he loved reading. He was.
He's passed.
Yeah.
He was a very complicated guy. I mean, I say that as one of his childhood friends.
No, you spent a lot of time with him.
I spent a lot of time with him. Very complicated. I mean, this kid almost it's worthy of telling the story. He treated my dad like his attorney from a very young age. I think you were his attorney at a very young age.
Yeah.
And so, but he would come into my dad's office and say, what did he say? He came in one time, he goes, "I think I want to go to college."
He was very bright.
And
Very
Drew
bright.
didn't finish high school.
No, he had to get his GSD.
No, but he came in and he goes, I think I want to go to college. And you go, okay, like HCC? And he goes, no, University of Alabama.
Yeah, yeah.
And my dad goes, what? He goes, I've had two dreams. One's is to go to University of Alabama. The other's play for the Dallas Cowboys. Can you get me to the University of Alabama? My dad goes, Drew.
Let me call the Cowboys.
Yeah. And this fucking guy took his GED, took his SAT, and the scores were so high, they fucking accepted him into the University of Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we all were like, I think he might play for the Cowboys.
Yeah, well, that didn't work out.
God.
No, it was. I still see some of those kids. I don't remember their names, but they'll come up to me at a restaurant. They might be a waiter or something. This is years ago, and go, "Hey, coach, how you doing?" But those were great years. That was so much fun.
It's my only regret not living in Tampa is that the men that I knew growing up, I don't see them.
Yeah.
I don't see.
Well, unfortunately, Howard Satin died. He was a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Valerius.
Tom?
No,
Sandy.
Sandy
Passed.
Yeah.
I remember.
I don't know about Tom. I don't
know.
But yeah, they were nice family members.
Was it weird having? I feel like the majority of the kids I grew up with were all Baptist, Southern Baptist.
They weren't Catholic.
No.
That's the only thing I know.
The only Catholics we had in Tampa were Doug Williams. Or no, it was
I didn't even know
Jimmy
that.
Jimmy Giles, and another guy. I did an interview with Doug Williams, and I asked him about, because Jimmy Giles would go to our church every now and then.
Really?
What do you mean, really?
I don't remember him. I mean, I remember him, but not at church.
If I ever didn't go to church, my dad would be
I don't remember going to church.
You missed out. Jimmy Giles is serving donuts today.
Oh, well, I remember the donuts.
And I was like, the fuck? I'm that's the only bummer I have about not living in Tampa is all the people I know. I mean, I know so many people, and I have such rich relationships.
It's a good place to grow up. It's a wonderful place. I love Tampa. And I even now, I mean, with all the kids in California, which the kids, how close Mom and I are to not only you and your two sisters, but the grandchildren, your daughters and Cotty's kids. But I just hate leaving Tampa because it's so comfortable for us. We have a comfortable home. I've been playing golf with people there for 30 years or more.
Yeah.
Friends are there. My clients are friends. It's hard to leave.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
If we did come to California, everyone here's got their own life. They're all working. And I mean, we wouldn't be. When we come here for a week or so, we see everyone every day, and it's nice. But if we lived here, it'd be less frequent, I think.
I want you to tell your recollection of the most pivotal time in my life, my 26th birthday, that phone call you gave me. So I've talked about it on a lot of podcasts. And you always say, I have an active imagination.
Yeah, well, it's not so much the imagination, it's the truth that eludes you.
Hold on, hang on. This is a man.
I think your imagination is your truth.
Yeah, no, hold on. Hang on. Two things can be true at the same time. You forget things.
Often.
So like, for instance, did you ever own a van?
Never.
So we proved you wrong, because me and Annie remember a van.
Ernie Haire gave me one to drive. I didn't own it.
Oh, now we're getting into some. Oh, now you just win. Now you're winning to win. Is that what we're doing?
Hold on a minute. Boom.
What, would you just dunk on me? Yeah. When I turned 26, I've told this story to a lot of people, and I would argue.
Well, you were not very responsible at 26.
No shit, Dad.
Oh, you noticed that too?
Yeah,
I thought it was just me. Mom said he's doing great. I said, doing what? Nothing.
Yeah. You called me on my birthday, and you.
The story's a little different.
I would like to hear your recollection.
Okay. Hey, Bert. Good morning.
Hey, Dad. How you doing?
Hey. And I said, happy birthday. And then I said, what the fuck you doing today? You said, well, I'm partying. I said, you shitting me? And then it went there. I tried to encourage you to get a job and get on stage.
Did you?
I said, you're up there to get on stage. You're not getting on stage. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Thought you wanted to be a comedian. And then you proceeded to get a job hawking people for the show and got on stage and he got recognized.
Yeah. So you think the conversation, you think?
It was not as brutal as you say.
Oh,
I didn't say, hey, asshole, what are you doing?
No, you said, I think at one point you called me a tremendous piece of shit.
I would never say that, you piece of shit.
Can I tell you though?
No,
that conversation was the best conversation I ever had in my life. It was the most uncomfortable conversation.
No, it was not pleasant. I agree.
It was not pleasant. Yeah. It was so uncomfortable, but it was so needed. The only thing that I wish I had hindsight with is I took that one parenting moment was so valuable for me that I thought that was my approach to everything with the girls. And so
I know that.
Yeah, and at one point, Georgia was 16, and I realized what I was doing in all my parenting was taking this aggressive, like, you let me down approach to them fucking up and not giving them any balance. And Georgia took her car out.
Oh.
Georgia took her car out. She was allowed to drive by herself, but she couldn't have friends in the car. And she pulled up to the corner of Laurel Canyon and Riverside, and the windows are down, and they're smoking vape pens. So George was in a vape pen, and they're dancing in the car. And Leanne Kreischer pulls up right next to them. And
really?
Looks over and goes, She calls Georgia, and she sees Georgia go, everyone shut the fuck up. She goes, hey, Mom. Leanne goes, turn to your right. And Georgia looks over to the right, and she goes, oh, hi, Mom. She goes, drop them off and come home immediately. And I remember saying that night, I was like, I think I've fucked up because I've made it so that
yeah,
the peril was like, if I fuck up, Dad's gonna lose his shit. And when she came home, I said, hey, you can go back out tonight. And she was like, what? I said, well, I don't, you fucked up, but you're just a kid. You're trying to figure this out. I said, here's what I want you to do. Just write like, if you could do like maybe 500 to 1,000 words, just to me, why this is important, why that rule is important, and why you think Mom and I care about that rule, why we think we care about it. That would mean a lot. And then we'll be on the same page of why it's important to us. And she fell apart crying, and she goes, you really understand me? She goes, why aren't you yelling? And I said, because I don't think it's working. She goes, it's not working, Dad.
No, that doesn't work.
She goes, it's, when you go here, I know, well, that's as far as it's going to go. So why not screw up? But what's interesting is I never dealt, I mean, I did, but maybe not really. And I think you know this better than I, but like, I never dealt with the financial stresses you dealt with.
No, that's absolutely true.
As a parent.
But,
and I was a wasteful money child.
Well, let me say this. When you talk about Georgia, when you were a Jesuit, I knew you would drink, but I had a terrible fear you would drive.
Yeah.
So I said to you on a Friday night, as we were having dinner before you go out, if you go out and drink, I won't get upset with you, but you call me and I'll pick you up. I don't want you driving. As long as you do that, I will not be upset with you.
Yeah.
Although I'm not telling you to go drink and not sanctioning it, but at the same time, if you do drink, call me.
I'll pick you up.
Any time of night, I'll come get you. And I won't say a word to you. That was on a Friday night. So I go to bed Friday night, and at midnight, the phone rings. And I go, hello? And he goes, hey, Dad. I said, hey, Bert. And he goes, I need a ride. I go, oh, fuck me. Where are you? I'm over on West Shore. I go, oh, it's
I was at Jimmy Cook's
twice.
house. I was at Jimmy Cook's house.
Yes. Oh, shit. West Shore? Are you kidding me? So I get in my car at midnight, and I drive to West Shore, wherever the hell you were, put you in the car, and as I promised, I wouldn't say a word to you. I didn't say a word to you the entire drive.
He brought a bucket and a towel.
I didn't want you throwing up my car.
I was like, Dad, this isn't my first rodeo. I'll be fine. Turn on some music.
But that was, I mean, you need to understand your kids will do things that maybe you don't want them to do.
Yeah.
But the other time, your focus should be on their safety.
Yeah. I have the best mattress in the world. I have a Helix. And I'm going to say that because when I go to hotels and I have to sleep in hotel beds, they are so hard and they're not meant for my sleep. I wish there was a way to tell a hotel the way you sleep, because when I'm done, I have pain in my side. I have pain in my scapula. I wake up, this arm's numb. Have you ever had your shoulder go numb? That does not happen when I sleep on my Helix, because I took their sleep quiz. I found out, I knew I was a side sleeper, but they picked the perfect mattress for me and they sent it to me. And when I sleep at home, all those pains, I have literally a day where I have to get my body back in line because of my Helix. This sleep quiz takes 2 minutes. You're going to take the quiz. You tell them how you sleep. They're going to tell you the right mattress for you. Then they're going to send it to your house, and it literally takes 2 minutes and 30 seconds to set up, and bam, you've got the best sleep of your life. And I know that because I have a wearable Whoop, and it tells me I am never below 78%. Never. And that is on boozing nights. If you want to sleep like I do, like a baby, go to helixsleep.com/Bert for 27% off site-wide, plus a free bedding bundle. That's a sheet set and a mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order, exclusive for our listeners of Bertcast. That is helixsleep.com/Bert for 27% off site-wide, plus a free bedding bundle. You are all set. You will get everything, your sheet set and your mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order, exclusive for our listeners of Bertcast. Say it one more time, helixsleep.com/Bert. Father's Day is just around the corner, and let's be honest, Dad does not need another coffee mug or a pair of socks or a tie. It is time to give him something he's going to actually use. Meet the Chairman Pro from Manscaped, the perfect Father's Day gift for the dad who deserves to look and feel his very best. This isn't just any razor. The Chairman Pro is a high-tech, dad-approved grooming upgrade, and it is an electric face shaver that can tackle up to 5 days of growth and features 2 interchangeable blade heads. Whether he's just cleaning up for golf, dinner, or just going for an accidental nap in the recliner and he's got a little stubble he wants to clean up before he goes back out for dinner. Hey, listen, make sure he does it with style. The Chairman Pro is perfect for the dad who taught you how to shave. And now I just realized I'll never teach anyone how to shave. Oh, my dad taught me. That stinks. For the dad who taught you how to shave and now needs a reminder of how it's really done. Have him join the over 12 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and use code BERT for 15% off your entire order at manscaped.com. By the way, their skin safe 4-blade foil is for that super close shave, and the skin safe stubble trimmer is for that sophisticated 5 o'clock shadow that we all like. I haven't had a clean shaven face. You can also shave your back with it. Just giving you a heads up. The Flex Adjust technology features a 360-degree contouring head and a blade that flexes and adjusts to the contour of the face and neck. It's also waterproof, so it can be used in the shower and just rinse under the sink after using, making cleanup an absolute breeze. And with the travel lock feature, you don't have to worry about it accidentally turning on your bag. It runs for 75 minutes on a single battery charge. Manscaped offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you can try it and you can feel risk-free, and it comes with a 2-year warranty on all powered devices. Get your dad a Father's Day gift he'll actually use and get the Chairman Pro for 15% off with code BERT at manscaped.com. That's 15% off your entire order with code BERT at manscaped.com. Or if you need it today, you can find Manscaped at a store near you. I got a call from Leanne one time. I was on the road. Now, I was a little buzzed, so it's easier to parent when I was a little buzzed. Just gotten off stage, had a couple drinks. I just got in my bunk. And Leanne found out that Georgia was at a party in Santa Clarita when she said she was going to be spending the night at her friend's house, and she'd been drinking. And Leanne was livid. And I was like, hey, and this is after that. I said, she's not in trouble. I said, she's not in trouble. She did the right thing. She told you she was drinking. I said, go pick her up, but she's not in trouble. And Leanne was really upset because Georgia had lied. She goes, yeah, but she lied. And I said, yeah, but she's not in trouble because she did the right thing. That's the thing. You got to reward the right thing, but this is the one thing. If I could change any of my behaviors as a child, I think this is also speaks to who I am as just, I've never really, I don't know if you've seen this, but Leanne sees this. I've never cared about money, and I've never known about money, and I never thought about money, and I spent money, and I never worried about money. And I don't know if that's good or that's bad, but at times the biggest headbutts we ever had was when I would spend your money without thinking about money.
Yeah, I'm a Coke card. Right? I said to Gigi, I said, how can he be spending $150 a month on gas? He's on campus. He's in a fraternity house. She said, you idiot.
I was taking my friends to Amico and buying them groceries.
And beer.
And then they'd give me money. They'd give me cash, and that's how I made money. I spent so much money at Amico, I got an award, I think.
I didn't. I did not get any awards.
They said they're like, hey, you're our highest spending in the Southeast.
I mean, $150 a month was a lot for gas back in the 90s.
90s, yeah. I remember the time I walked in and I was like,
well, thank you, bud. Thank you.
This is how, I mean, I hope if you're listening to this, you love me, number one, so that you can hear that I'm being very candid with who I was as a child. I walked in at college and I was like, and it was spring break week and I just came down to get some cash. So I was like, hey, I can't, you're like, oh, you home for spring break? And I said, no, I'm going to Aspen. Do you remember this? We were in my bedroom and you went, wait, how are you affording that? And I said, oh, I'm not. I need $800.
Yeah. Well, so do I, bud.
Calling cards were a big one. Do you remember calling? Wait, do you remember the time?
Hold on. Let's talk about Europe. He didn't realize, the idiot, that calling from Europe to talk to his girlfriend or whoever the hell you called for $800 a month.
Yeah. I didn't realize a calling card had a price point. I thought it was like 10 cents every call.
Yeah.
Maybe 25 cents because it's international. Do you remember the time? What was the bank you banked at? NC?
No. Yes, I can't remember. I'm old.
North Carolina.
It was North Carolina Bank, National Bank or whatever it was.
NBNC or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And I get a call from my dad and he goes, did you write in the memo of a check?
Oh, yeah. One of the women at the bank called me. Yeah, it had to do with oysters.
Eating sweet pussy in the memo for eating sweet pussy.
Oh, yeah. The bank called me and said, I just processed your son's check. I said, oh, how much is it? She said, that's not the issue. I said, what's the issue? It's the eating sweet pussy that we found. We found that offensive. I said, did you really?
I would write that in all the memos. Like if I had to pay someone cash, I'd write for sucking my cock. And then I thought it was funny.
Oh, yeah, we got a riot in Tampa.
Did you do that? Oh, checks were a big deal. When you got
they always call because I was overdrawn.
Oh.
No, I remember that vividly. Those years were great. I remember when you graduated from Florida State. Was it 6 years?
6.5.
Whatever. Cost me a lot.
It did not.
I remember
it was
were walking
$50 a class.
Back then it was like 60 today.
Oh yeah.
So we're at graduation and I'm sitting next to your mother. And I said to her, maybe he'll surprise us with a PhD. He's been up here long enough. And then I see you and Mark Dunn walking up together.
Yeah.
And you were the last two they called.
Well, they sat me next to, you know who Mark Dunn is?
The running back for the Bucks.
He played for the Bucks for a long time. He played
fantastic.
For the Falcons. He was one of the best. He was one of the best running backs come out of Florida State. And they sat us next to each other for graduation. I think mostly they'd call Work Done and the cheers would be so loud they could then call my name and
no one would notice.
No one would notice. I'm being
This was
serious.
after your Rolling Stone article.
It was after the Rolling Stone. And I sat next to Work Done at graduation and I said, he said, you're the party boy, right? I said, yeah. And I said, you're going to play for the Bucks? He said, yeah. I said, well, I grew up in Tampa. I know you're from, I think it's from New Orleans. And I said, I grew up in Tampa or Louisiana. I said, I grew up in Tampa. And so if you ever need any hookups with that, and he just went, nope. I went with anyone. Like I got a lot of friends. He goes, no, man, I don't think we do the same types of things.
Well, he did ask you.
Yeah.
Where's the party tonight?
Oh, yeah. He goes,
and you go, I'm going to dinner with my parents and my sisters.
He goes, what about tonight? What are you guys doing tonight? And he was very sweet. He was a very nice guy. But he was like, I don't think I'd hang out with your friends. And I was like, yeah, you definitely wouldn't. Yeah.
No.
Like, yeah.
No. He turned out to be a wonderful running back.
He was a wonderful guy.
Did you see that Charlie Ward is now now my memory, he's been hired by Florida A&M as a coach.
No.
And I'm thinking it's probably basketball.
It's got to be basketball. Yeah. Got to be bad. He was so amazing.
He was before his time. If he was on that team now with his running ability, he'd be a first-round draft pick.
Oh, yeah.
But because he was a running and we watched his games and he was phenomenal.
Charlie Ward is the most confident I've ever felt in any capacity in life, but like for something I rooted for.
Yeah.
Including myself in my career. Watching him was Florida A&M hires Charlie Ward as men's basketball coach.
Yeah, I just saw that. He got a good contract too, by the way.
He on 3rd and long, that guy did it every time.
Oh, he was fantastic. We went your freshman year. We went to all the games.
Yeah,
not all of them, but a good number of them. By the way, one of the games we brought. I remember Maglione was with us.
Yeah, I definitely remember.
And we couldn't get a hotel room on Parents' Weekend, so we rented a RV. What is that? What you call them?
Yeah, RV.
And we drove up. Kathy, Fred, Mom, and I. And I don't remember the girls going with us.
Annie was already up there.
Oh, was she?
And Cotty had to come.
Okay, I guess so. But
yeah, Cotty definitely came.
We parked by the stadium, and we go to the game.
Hold on. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we drove you guys in the middle of the night to the stadium. Wait, go ahead. You tell it.
No, we parked at the stadium, and Mom and I go to bed as normal, like 9 o'clock. And then we hear you and your clowns in the RV with us, and I hear you saying, "Keep it down. I don't want to wake up my parents." And I look at Mom and I go, "Was he fucking nuts?" So next thing I know, I feel the thing rocking. I said to Mom, I said, "Where the hell is he taking us?" She said, "Oh, just go to sleep." So I wake up the next morning in some parking lot in an apartment building. I have no idea where we are. You drove us someplace and abandoned us. Mom and I get up and I said, "Where are this?" Before like Google. I mean, I'm saying, you have a AAA map? She goes, "No, I don't have a AAA map." I said, "Where the hell are we?" And I think we ended up calling you and said, let me come out. And you moved us.
We needed the vehicle.
Well, yeah, you forgot your mom and dad were sleeping in it.
God. It seems like it was yesterday.
For you, it does.
Yeah,
For me, it's like 40 years ago.
For real?
Yeah.
God.
I mean, when I talked to Mom about high school, 1966, you asked about my Volkswagen.
Yeah.
I had a 1966 Volkswagen convertible. I sent you pictures. And that seems like a lifetime ago. It is a lifetime ago, isn't it?
Some people, you ever feel lucky? Think about all the people that you've lost in that time.
Well, my dad in 65. Yeah. God bless Jumbo Elliott for giving me a scholarship to Villanova. Because my mom and dad were middle-class folks. My dad died when I was a junior in high school. And Easter, this time, in just before Easter, Jumbo called. I had won the meet of champions in Philadelphia. They had a big race in Philadelphia in 1966. It was in like March. It was in Franklin Field where the University of Pennsylvania is. Mm-hmm. And they had South Jersey, Delaware, and Philadelphia runners. And I won the half mile. I actually set a record that was the best half mile I'd ever run. I set a record. And a week or two later, I was home for Easter. And Jumbo Elliott, I was out running accidentally. When I got back, my mother said to me, "Coach Elliott called. He wants you to call him back, collect." Because back then, you'd long-distance charges. So I call him back, and he goes, "Al, I'd like you to run for Villanova next year." And I said, "Oh, man, that's like a dream come true." Villanova was the best track college in the country. They were Olympians on every team had Olympians on it. Mario LaCory was on it the next year, and I mean, just phenomenal. So I said to Jumbo, of course I didn't call him Jumbo, Mr. Elliott. I said, well, I haven't been accepted yet to Villanova. He said, don't worry about it, Al. It's not an issue. I said, oh, good to hear. But that got me through college.
Yeah.
It was a blessing.
What did your dad? I talked about this on Bill Maher, and I feel like my memory is you're right. My memory is whatever I think makes the best story sometimes.
Well, sometimes. You're being modest.
But your dad did storm the beaches of Normandy, correct?
Yes. I you know what? My mother was a little goofy. She waited for my dad to be dead 40 years before she handed me his diary from World War II. And it's half the size of a cell phone. It's a little leather booklet. And
you have the actual diary.
I have it at home. You'll have it when the time's appropriate. But I said to my mother, I said, God, I've never seen this. She said, well, I thought maybe you should have it. And now I'm like 60-some years old, and I'm reading the diary. And I read one of the entries. I read every page of it because it started out with his, going to England. He went from, he was in Alabama, ended up going on a Liberty ship to England.
How big were the Liberty? Hang on.
Liberty ships. My dad, that's the only thing my dad would talk about with the war. Because I asked him, I said, what was it like? He refused to talk about the war at all. I think he had a lot of issues.
PTSD?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then they didn't know what it was, but he had a lot of issues. And I talked to him, and he goes, the Liberty ships. He said they were overcrowded. They built a Liberty ship in like a week because they had to move all these troops to England.
Yeah.
And
World War II Liberty ship.
Yeah, and he said it was overcrowded, and he said virtually everyone on the one was seasick because they were so small. They're going across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And in reading about them now, like a third of them sunk.
Really?
So he gets to England. So then he writes in his diary, we're going to some place called Omaha Beach tomorrow. And I'm thinking, he didn't know?
Yeah, I told that to Bill Maher.
He didn't know?
I told that to Bill Maher, and Bill Maher goes, wow, they absolutely knew. And I was like, no, I'm telling you that his entry. I mean, you got to realize, if I had been on a Liberty ship, I'd be like, we're going to the beach tomorrow?
Well, he went to England, and he was there for a while, and the invasion was delayed because of weather for several days. And then he went, and he was on the beaches in Normandy. And I didn't know that until I was in my 60s.
Wow.
And I thought, my God, what he went through. Because if you watched, when I went, first year I went to Malvern, I had to read books, one of which was about World War I or World War II, the invasion. And it just overwhelmed me. I remember my father going to a movie to see The Guns of Navarone. And he came back from the movie, and he was visibly upset.
Really?
Yeah. But what else can we talk about?
Well, it's crazy that no one had empathy for them.
No. He carried that with him. I mean, when we went to church, he couldn't sit in one of the pews. He stood in the back. Claustrophobia.
I bet.
This is a cheery podcast. What else should we talk about? Let's talk about you.
Do you think I'm like him?
Oh, terribly.
Really?
Yeah. And that's why I get so emotional.
Yeah.
So I see you and I see my dad. And
if that's true, then we got little Teddy and your dad too.
The difference with Teddy and my dad never got upset.
Really?
He was so low key and so sweet. He has the sweetness and kindness you have. I mean, you don't have a jealous bone in your body.
Yeah.
And whatever.
I remember one time, I don't know, I have no recollection of this. I remember one time you said to me, We used to do a travel ball for Jesuit. You get $10 to get a lunch or whatever. And I don't remember it. But I know it's me. I know that there was, I feel like there's been a few versions of me in this. Right before I went to college, I was so concerned with, like, it sounds crazy to say, but like social justice, in the sense that if you didn't have and I had, then you should have. And I remember Coach Crumbly, I guess, said to you, I bought like a.
Oh, well, you and Brad Ratke were in Sarasota screwing around with the intercom system with the dugouts. So he benched you. But he didn't bench Brad because he went on to play Major League Baseball for 20 years.
Yeah, he played for the Twins.
And I remember saying to you after one of the games when you sat in the bench, and you led the county that year in extra base hits. I don't know if you know that.
No, I saw that. I think Brad Radke sent me that stat. Or no, Troy Kent sent me that.
You led the county in extra base hits, and he benched you.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off. And I said to you after a game when you didn't play, I said, I'm going to say something. I said, this pisses me off. He said, Brad's playing, you're not. And I just don't understand that. And you said to me, it's only baseball, Dad. He says, it's only baseball. It's a game. And I thought, boy, you have the right perspective. I'm one of those fucked up parents. I think it's more than a game.
I remember you telling me one time I was saying something about, I think it was someone in comedy, and how happy I was for them. And you were...
Yes. It was the young fella in New York who ended up writing for Saturday Night Live, and Dimitri
Martin.
Yes. And the thing that's impressed me most about you, aside from your sweetness and kindness, and people may not know that.
I don't think people do.
But you are devoted to family. You're devoted to friends.
Yeah.
And people who see you recognize, I mean, when a fan meets you, you take the time and the energy, everyone, you never decline. Mm-hmm. You have a generosity that my dad had. And my dad was the sweetest, kindest man. And that's you.
Oh, thank you. I think the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, and I don't talk about it ever. Like sometimes people will say that like me and my friends have issues when we don't. And you always want to speak up and go, I don't have any problems with Joe. Joe has no problems with me. And you see the internet will say stuff like that in your comments. Joe hates you. And you're like, you want to say stuff.
You can't respond to that.
You can't respond to it. That's the always thing that bothers me, because I go, I take my friendships like pretty seriously. And especially like Tommy. No. Joe's the guy that changed the way I looked at friends.
Joe and Tom both have been extraordinary friends to you. They've helped you with your career.
Yeah.
They've always given you advice, and it's always been pretty good advice. I mean,
I would say if you hang out with great white sharks, people think you're a great white shark.
Yeah, well, maybe that's true, but
you can be a Mako, and people can't tell the difference.
I remember the Travel Channel, which it's a very great channel.
Yeah.
I just didn't like you working for them because I didn't like the role they placed you in.
Yeah.
I don't think they took advantage of your comedy, and they kind of inhibited you from being you.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for that.
No.
And I didn't see a future in that. And Tom and Joe both pushed you to leave the channel and to go out and do stand-up. And that was a big change. They had a big impact. Barry Katz, to be honest, he had a very big impact too, because he always said to me the same thing I always said. He said, I've had comedians that are great comedians. He said, you put them on stage in a big audience and they fold. He said, I put Bert before a big audience and he excels. And he also said, Bert's more of a personality. He says, he relates to people. He said he could do a talk show and be successful. Barry had some good insight about you.
I'm kind of lucky. As a father, my biggest fear is when I pass, not getting to hang out with my family. My biggest fear should be is not being able to take care of my family, but I don't have to worry about that because I have life insurance. That is the taking care of your family's future with life insurance is possibly the most important thing you can do as a parent, as a father. I'll say as a father, my personal, listen, Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done today. Made for busy parents just like you, all online. And on your schedule, you can be covered in just under probably 10 minutes with no health exam required if you've got kids, and especially if you're young and healthy. Right now is the time to lock low rates. Even if you have life insurance through your employer, it may not offer enough protection for your family, and it also may not follow you to your next job if you leave your job. Fabric has flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. There's no risk. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and then you can cancel it anytime. They have over 1,900 five-star reviews on Trustpilot with a rating of excellent. Fabric has more than just life insurance. It's your one-stop shop with free digital wills, access to investment accounts to invest in your kids' futures, and more. Plus, manage it all right from your phone. Join the thousands of families who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/Bertcast. That's meetfabric.com/Bertcast. MEET fabric.com/Bertcast. Policies issued by Western and Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. I've always been very lucky with who's in my corner. I remember you and Joe said it within the same week with that Travel Channel. I came down.
Really?
We were in Clearwater, yeah. And I was with you. And I said, you said, so what's the deal? This had to be 2016. And you said, so what's the deal? What are you going to do with Travel Channel? I go, I know my recollection's crazy, but your mantra always has been eat shit, cash checks.
Well, yeah, I don't tell a lot of people that.
But and I said, Dad, eat shit, cash checks. I hope I get another gig at Travel Channel. And you got emotional and you cried. And you said, I think I might have fucked you up. You said, that's my mantra.
Yeah.
And you said, I don't have talent. You have talent. You need to go after your dream or you're going to regret it. And I remember thinking, I think the dream's past. I'm 43.
No.
And you're like, no. And then I walked into the green room at the store, and it was Joe and Bill Burr were back there. And Tom was so pivotal in this, but I remember those two guys were backstage and they were talking about me. And you could see, I could sense they were talking about me. I was like, what's up, guys? And then they're like, I remember Joe just goes, your travel show sucks.
Yeah.
He was like, it sucks, man. You're so much better at comedy. Like, they just watched me and they're like, there's so much better at comedy. And
they didn't understand you.
No, Travel Channel did not.
And they didn't understand what you could have brought to the show.
No, I remember one point they said to me, they said, I sat with the new president. She said, so what's your thing? And I said, well, I'd like to do a show like Anthony Bourdain. And she goes, you, young man, are nothing like Anthony Bourdain.
I remember her.
Yeah.
She's not a big fan of mine.
No.
I won't mention her, but yes.
I had a couple presidents that didn't like me. I had a couple.
Well, the last one particularly did.
The last one did not like me.
No.
By the way, I want to send her a bottle of champagne because her getting rid of me at Travel Channel.
That's the best thing that happened to your life.
Best thing. That's why I always talk about luck. Do you think you're lucky?
No, I believe in fate.
Really?
I believe things are meant to happen. When I was in Philadelphia with Dwayne Morris, I loved that job. I loved working for them. And I remember Frank White was the managing partner in the office I was in. And when they hired me, they said, look, we're hiring you, but you need to understand. We can only promise you employment for a year because, this is a regional office you're in and we're not sure of the future. So I said, I understand. They said, so at the end of the year or so, and I remember Frank White's secretary said to me one day after I was there about 18 months, she said, hey, Al, Frank White sent a memo to the main office. It's in my desk drawer. I think you should read it. She said, but wait, come in. Maybe why don't you come in like Saturday morning when no one's here and I'll leave it in my drawer so you can leave. Then So Saturday, of course, I showed up at like 6 a.m. and I opened her drawer, and there's a memo from Frank to the main office saying, Al's worked out very well. We'd like to keep him. We'd like to put his name on the letterhead and all this other stuff. And I go, God, isn't that wonderful? Now I get that from his secretary. About 3 or 4 weeks later, Frank buzzes me and says, I'm gonna come in your office. I'll be in there in a minute. He walks in. He walked into my office, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Why would you think something's wrong?" I said, "I've been here 18 months. You've never come into my office. I've always gone into your office. You always say, Al, come on in. You're in my office standing in front of me. What's going on?" And he says, "They told me I have to terminate you." I said, "Okay." He said, the firm represents a big architectural firm in Philadelphia. Their son just graduated from Penn Law, and they want me to hire him to replace you. And I said, I understand. I said, that was the deal going in. I understand it. No problem. Because at that time, Mom was pregnant with Annie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was kind of, this is like in December. And Frank said to me, I understand your wife's pregnant. I said, yeah. He said, well, let's keep her. I'm not going to, you stay here until your daughter's born. Make sure you have insurance coverage and make sure everything's okay. And I said, well, that's very nice. And I understood. I didn't have a problem with that. Then I took the Florida bar because I had not taken the Florida bar. And I passed it, obviously, and I went to work there. And then Larry and I got together. The interesting thing about all of this is when I got out of law school, Mom and I hadn't gotten a job yet. Mom and I drove to New York to visit my mother, and we were at my mother's house, and she said, one of the neighbors, their daughter was a psychic. Okay? Her name was Sina Gary. She was a psychic.
This is Levittown.
This is in Levittown, New York. And now I grew up with this young. Now she was a couple years older than me, but I mean, I was friends with her brother Doug.
Yeah.
And she said, "Would you like Sina to come over and give you a reading?" Yeah, sure. Bring her over. I'm thinking a bunch of nonsense, right?
Yeah.
So she comes in, and she sits down with me, and she says, "Let me tell you what I see." Now this is before I have a job with Wayne Morse. She says, I see you're going to get a job in Philadelphia with a prominent Philadelphia law firm. She says, I can't see who it is, but they're on a street. The first letter is a B. And she said, you're going to work for a guy that's probably 6'6", blonde hair. And I go, okay. She says, but you know what? You're not going to be there very long. I said, really? She says, you're going to leave there within 2 years. And you're going back to Florida. I said, okay. And she says, you know what I see? I see real estate in your future. I said, really? So she leaves. And I told Mom, I said, that's crazy. I'm never going back to Florida.
Yeah.
Who the hell she's nuts. Well, I go back to Philadelphia. I interview with Dwayne Morris on Broad Street. I work for Frank White, who's 6'6", blonde hair. And I'm going, this is a little freaky.
Yeah.
Then I get fired.
Yeah.
And I go back to Florida. I go, this is really freaky. And then after being in Florida for 10 years, I get involved totally in real estate.
Random.
Just Merrill Lynch calls me up and says, we need an attorney to do the relocation closings for Merrill Lynch. Would you do them? And I said, I'd love to do real estate. Then I did from 85 until now, that's all I've done. And I'm thinking, that woman was right on.
I would fucking find out where she is.
I've tried. Believe me. You know what my big problem is? I don't know how to spell Sina. I can go with Gary, I got, but isn't that incredible?
That's crazy.
You know what her role was in New York? She was hired by lawyers to read jurors. So
Really?
She would sit with the attorney at their table and say to him, juror number 5, you need to get rid of. Number 5, number 6, you should keep. That was her job. But she was a psychic. And I tell you what, from that moment forward, everything that happened to me was identical what she said.
For real.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest life lesson in your life that I've accrued is, and I think this explains me, Cotty, and Annie's lives, careers, of what we're doing in life, is be amenable.
That, you know what? The Mom and I talk about that. The greatest assets I think we either gave to you or you inherited is your ability to relate to people and understand people. I mean, Annie is the sweetest thing in the world.
Yeah.
She is your mother in terms of her love and understanding for children and people. Cotty, I think a lot of her success is her ability to relate to people and have people enjoy her personality.
Cotty's, I'll say the thing about, well, I mean, first of all, I've always said Cotty is the funniest person in our family.
She's hilarious.
She's the funniest person in our family.
I wouldn't put her on stage because she might have a little meltdown, but
no.
Otherwise, she is incredible.
She is the funniest person in our family. Did you hear what she said about their friend, Frank?
No.
She goes, hey, this is in typical Cotty. She goes, and this is how quick her brain thinks. She goes, has anyone heard about his cocktail? And we're like, what? She goes, Zoloft, Lexapro, and Adderall. I go, yeah. She goes, he's living life on a jet ski. The way she thinks is so fucking quick. But her greatest ability, and I think I think I look up to this, and you have it, is to be able to see what the business world is offering, to put humility first, your ego second, and pivot to succeed. And it's crazy. Like, I mean, the way I look at her career, I go, and I don't know if I've done that per se, but I definitely, I've definitely taken advice on, like, when that, I don't know, it's just the things that you remember as a kid that are these life lessons as a parent that maybe you didn't.
You're not conscious of anything.
You're not conscious of it, but when this is the craziest thing is, and I'll say it, and you can disagree or agree, but, like, the thing in especially in Florida was to be like a PI, personal injury lawyer. That was like big money.
Yeah.
And being a lawyer in Tampa was it's a pretty big deal. But you got a call from a guy in Miami one day who's just like, hey, I got this thing that I do. It's kind of, it's like, this is how I explain it. But he goes, it's, you're not really using your lawyer skills here, but you are a lawyer, you're in the room, so it saves in this thing, the processing fee. So I do them. You should try one. I got one in Tampa if you want to do it, and it would help me out. And you did it. And you saw that was a new revenue of business. I'm underselling what you do for a living. Not because I don't listen.
No,
but and that's when I heard that, I thought, so you can always be a comic, but if you got to pay bills doing, that's the big thing.
I remember having breakfast for you 20, 30 years ago. And you said, I don't care about the money. I'm an artist. And I want you to tell you, I can tell you the exact date this was. It's the day Chris Farley died. Oh, you were upset. I remember calling you telling you he died. Yeah. It bothered you a bit. But we had breakfast and you're saying, I don't care about money. I said, well, that's well and good. Really good, but you need to. Yeah. And I remember when you got when Will Smith brought you out to L.A. and you got that job with FX, which I have filmed every show of yours. I want to put those on digital for you because I have them on VHS. Is that what you call it? Let's upload every episode. I mean, I have every episode because you need to understand, I never could watch you live. I always tell either Nana, your grandmother, or Mom would tell me, it's good to watch. Because I was always scared. In fact, when you performed on Carolyn's on Broadway, I don't know how many shots of bourbon I had and went to bed at 7:00. Because I told Mom, I said, I can't handle the stress. He's going to be on the big stage. Will Smith is having people watch him. And then, then she wakes me up and says he killed. But it's... the first time you ever watched me live was at the arena. At Emily. About 3 or 4 years ago. It was, how long was it? Was that 3 years ago? It was when your show came out. When your
my
movie came out.
My movie came out, yeah.
I had never been to a show. It was kind of like baseball. I like to stand out in left field and watch from there because I didn't like all the chatter. I didn't want to put stress on you by watching you.
Yeah.
So I always stood out in left field. It's the same with your shows. I mean, I remember after doing comedy for 10 years, Cuddy said to me, I said to Annie, I said, God, she said, why don't you go? I said, I'm nervous. He may bomb. She said, Dad, he may think he bombed, but no one else does. He said, he always does well.
Yeah.
I had trouble accepting that. And then in February, I guess it was, of 3 years ago, you asked me to go to the arena. And I brought all of my friends, all 6 of them.
I think I brought them.
Well, you actually did.
Yeah, I think I got you guys a Sprinter van.
No, Larry actually.
Oh, Larry got the Sprinter van? Yeah.
He ran a Sprinter. And Todd Teller was there. Larry was there, and Bob Orff. And it was overwhelming when I sat up there and I saw these big screens next to you, 10 feet tall or whatever they are. And to see the excitement in the crowd, it was a very emotional time for me. That, and when you the premiere I couldn't handle. I had a big emotional, you remember that? Yeah. You're getting emotional, bud.
No, yeah. I don't cry on podcasts.
But no, that when
that was the best. That was the best. That was the.
I couldn't hold it back when I saw you.
You know, it's so funny that I have such incredibly fond memories of that movie. And it's so funny whenever anyone says they liked it and they watched it, all I go back to is that when we got done and you watched it. It's my favorite memory.
It was very emotional for me. I remember I was emotional watching it, but then when I saw you afterwards, I couldn't control it. It's been some very rewarding times for me as a parent, and Mom as well.
We should do more of these, Dad.
Yeah, well.
We should do more of these.
Yeah,
Did I miss my meeting?
Oh, my goodness.
What time does my meeting start?
8 minutes.
4:30? Oh, we have plenty of time. I'll take another drink, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
What?
You got another one made already?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'll spend the night here.
We got to go back to my house.
Have a drink?
We'll have a drink. I got elk meat.
You got what?
Elk meat.
Elk?
I got a bunch of elk.
Kidding.
Yeah.
No ostrich?
No, I got elk and bison.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do for dinner tonight.
I have no idea.
Yeah, Teddy's got practice until 5, and then they come over.
Oh, is that okay?
I got a meeting at 4:30 till 5, and then
but I tell you what, her 2 children adore you and Leanne.
I'll tell you
it's
what.
like you're at their house and they say, "Can we go to Uncle Bert and Leanne's?"
I said to Leanne one time, I was like, I hate to say it this way, but like, out of all the versions of you, all the parts of you in your life, when you were a single chick, when you lived in New York, when you were a waitress, when you were dating me, when you were all the versions of you, your best version as a human being is as a mom. I go, you fucking kill it as a mom. And she goes, thanks. The one part I don't get to do anymore. And I went, I didn't mean it like that. She goes, no, they're gone. You're telling me that I'm no good anymore.
It's funny you say that because I feel the same way about your mother.
Really?
I just told her as we're coming here, I said, you made the family. I mean, think of the Easters and what she did.
I mean, we got Easter baskets well into fucking college.
I mean, everything was devoted to children.
Yeah.
When she went to Berkeley, driving you and Annie.
Yeah.
I told her, I said, I worked. I used to work 10, 12 hours a day. My deal was with the kids. I'd come home, have something to eat with you, and we'd all go to bed and I'll read a story. That was my involvement as a father.
But, I said this to you one time. I said, I really did a shit job as a father. And you said, absolutely not.
No.
Because I always felt like, because I was gone on weekends.
You quantified it. You said, because I'm not here, I'm not a good father. And you know what? I remember Bob Doman. Bob Doman was our neighbor. And actually, I ran with him. He was in
St. Joseph's.
Well, he went to
John.
St. Joe's College.
Yeah.
And Bob said to me, he says, I travel 4 days a week. I'm home on the weekends. But he said those weekends were quality weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much how many hours you have with your kids or your wife. It's what you do with the time you have.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
you said
always,
that.
you were always devoted to the kids and Leanne.
I just recently saw pictures of me, like Leanne will send memories to our Baby Walrus chat thread. And I was like, God, I was really fucking hands-on when I was home. Like I was really like dialed in. But yeah, I remember telling you that and I was like, I felt like such a shit dad because I wasn't home every day. I couldn't coach softball. I couldn't coach.
Well, that's your life. But the question then becomes, when you're with them, what's your quality of life at that point? And you were devoted to all of them.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. Me, I worked all day. You were traveling. I worked all day.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had to because we never had any money. I mean, I remember going to the office and this is not that long ago, 20 years ago, making sure I have enough money to cover my dues for Tampa Palms.
Yeah.
When you're raising a family and all of you were in private schools, I really couldn't afford Berkeley Prep for 3 kids or whatever. I guess Cotty never went there, did
Cotty went to Carroll Day School.
Yeah, and then the Academy and Jesuit. And
it's funny, as a kid, you never think, maybe my parents can't afford this.
Well, that's good that Now, on the other hand, I always thought my parents couldn't afford it.
Really?
Well, I saw my dad working, and I remember, God, I was in Little League, and my dad bought me a baseball glove, a Rawlings glove, and it was to me as a kid, it was magnificent. And my comments for him is, "Could you afford it, Dad?" Now, what kid says that to a parent? But I was totally aware because we were in a little Levittown home. My parents' bedroom, we were separated by a wall. And we were separated by about 10 feet from the kitchen.
Yeah.
So I'd be in bed and I could hear every word they'd say.
Yeah.
And I'd hear my mother say, "Don't worry, Al, we'll eat pasta all week. Don't worry, Al." And I remember going shopping with my mother at the A&P store in Levittown. And I'd say, "Hey, let's get some grape juice. Concord, I love grape juice." He goes, "Well, not today." Never bought soda.
Really?
Never. We couldn't afford soda. We had Charles Chips bring pretzels by once every month or so. That was our big treat. And I'm not belittling my mother and father, but things were tight. And I remember when I went to prep school, I went to Malvern Prep. That was a big expense for my parents. And the reason I went there is because I tried to get into a Catholic school in Long Island, Chaminade primarily, and I got rejected. I didn't pass the entrance exam. And my father, who was such a easygoing guy, went to see the brother and wanted to know why I wasn't accepted, because he was a very proud father.
Yeah.
And they said, "Your son's average." And my father got so upset. And he came back and he said, "We're going to get you." So then I went to Malvern because I remember going there with my parents to meet with the headmaster. And he said, "No, we're welcome to have you. Come back in September. You'll be admitted as a sophomore." And I went to Malvern. And that's something that was extremely expensive. It was like $2,500 a year back in the 60s.
Yeah.
It was a huge amount. I used to get a check from my father like every week for like $2. And he'd say, "Don't spend it all at once." And, back then, gas was 25 cents a gallon. You could go to a movie for 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came from I was very conscious of money as a kid. And at Christmas, I would get one major gift. And then I would always get slipper socks, which I always buy for your kids.
Yeah.
But when I was 10 years old, I worked in a hardware store. And I cut glass, I mixed paint. I worked for a guy named Frank. And every Saturday when I'd work, he'd give me 50 cents to go get lunch. so I was very conscious. I had a paper route. I worked in a hardware store. I worked at Jamaica Hospital. All this before I even went to college.
Yeah.
So I was very conscious of the limited resources we had. But I had the most wonderful childhood in the world. Living in Levittown, my best friend was Tom Lynch. And Tom and I would get up every morning at 6 o'clock and play all day long. We'd walk to the pool. They had a community pool. It was a wonderful growing up.
I swam in that pool.
Yes.
Remember they made Annie put
a cap on.
a cap on?
Yeah, all the women had to wear a
We
cap.
were like fucking 8 and 6, and they made her put a cap on, and she was like, I don't wear a swim cap.
But that was, growing up there was probably a great experience for me.
How great was Levittown?
It was, I didn't realize.
Pete doesn't know what it is.
Levittown was the first development where every house was the same.
It's tract housing. You know what tract housing is?
Hooverville type stuff?
Like what?
Hooverville?
Hooverville, buddy, was during the Depression, and they were cardboard boxes.
Like how they're all like the same.
No. Hooverville. Pull up Hooverville. Hooverville was.
Pull up Levittown.
Pull up Wait. Hang on. Levittown was tract housing. So you had three. I actually enjoyed.
Everyone had the same floor plan.
Well, there was a couple, right?
A couple exteriors were a little different, but the floor plans were all the same.
So Hooverville was for the Depression. It's where poor people live, Pete. But there's a thing that.
Well, let me tell you, Levittown. My father bought a house there in 1952.
Out of World War II.
Yeah, he got a VA loan.
This is actually a really important part of America, and I mean this.
It was. Now, so my dad, I remember my mother wanted to live in Garden City, which was up in. And my grandfather said, "You can't afford Garden City."
Yeah.
So we went to Levittown, and I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But the house was $5,200.
If you pull up the interior of Levittown, you're actually looking at my dad's house.
Actually, it shows up if you put 2 Echo Lane.
Yes,
the damn house shows up.
2 Echo Lane, Levittown.
There it is, right there, the top right, the top left. That's the house right there.
Where, right there?
Yeah, they fixed it up a bit.
That's your actual house.
Yeah, that's the house. Now think of what the payment was. The house was $5,200. It's 5%.
Selling for $109,000 right now.
No, it's not selling. No, it's selling for $600,000 or $700,000. Now, what the hell?
Estimated is 60.
What the hell's
$100,000?
$100,000?
There's an old listing.
It is very old,
Yeah.
but it's selling for like $600,000 now. But my dad's payment was like $30 a month. Well, $5,000 loan over 30 years at 5%.
Yeah.
Taxes were nothing.
So a lot of the guys that came out of World War II could get the VA loan, and they could get these houses. And what they did is they built tract housing. It was the first time they ever did tract housing in the United States.
Yeah.
And they did it in Levittown. It was almost an experimental town. And so a lot of the guys
Yes, it was.
A lot of the guys came out of World War II and bought houses in Levittown. And it was just fucking sidebar. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Governors is in Levittown. It's a comedy club that is in Levittown.
It could be.
Yeah.
By Cherry Hill, probably, or Cherry something.
It's Governor's Comedy Club.
Actually, when you moved to New York, I went up there for the U.S. Open with Tiger Woods won at Bethpage.
Yeah.
My dad used to play every Wednesday at the Black Course at Bethpage.
Yeah.
So we went there in 2000 when Tiger won it. And I drove you around Levittown.
Yeah.
And showed you where I played Little League, where I went to grade school, where I went to high school for 1 year or 3 years, I guess, junior high and high. But it was a great experience. But I was very conscious of money as a kid because of the struggles. I would listen to them. You know, when you're in a $800,000 square foot home, you hear everything.
Do you think that's good or bad?
It's good for me.
I know, but do you think that, because clearly I had no idea what money was.
You were raised totally different, because I remember when you went to Florida State, because at Villanova I had to work every weekend for spend money. I mean, my mother didn't send me a couple $100 a month.
Yeah.
I didn't have credit cards. So I was a maid for a year. I mean, I drove cabs for a couple of years. We did virtually everything. But when you went to Florida State, I said, I don't want you working. what an idiot I was.
Boy, I love.
Well, he took me for my word. He said, I won't work a fucking dime. So when you went up there, I said, I just want you to study and do well. 6 years later, I'm saying, I wonder if he has a PhD. And Gigi says, I hope he has a BS or whatever the hell you had.
BA, what is it? Yeah, I was so clueless. I went up there. I didn't work. I worked my sophomore year. I got a job at Thrifty Nickel delivering papers on Thursdays.
Yeah, that was a delight.
$40 for delivering papers. $40.
Did you actually deliver them?
Yeah, I woke up.
How long?
They would fill my Jetta with papers. My Jetta with papers to the ceiling, in the trunk, all over, and I drove around. It was right when the movie Singles came out, and I would drive around and deliver papers, and then I got a job at Safe Escort.
Yes, yeah. Taking girls from one place to another for safety.
Yeah.
Mr. Safety here.
Yeah. I was, and then I did that all through college, and then, those are the only jobs I had.
Yeah.
Safe Escort.
I was so smart. Don't work at all, Bert.
Well, you know what I said to my daughters the same thing. I don't want you to work at all. You know what they said? Yeah, that's not happening, Dad. No. Georgia's had a job she gets jobs where I get angry at her, and I go, what the fuck are you doing? You're wasting your life. You're a short order cook at a Hawaiian restaurant. She goes, I learned how to cook chicken, Dad. Great. Fucking awesome.
No, your girls are magnificent. I love them.
Yeah.
They are very, you know what? When you come there and when they give you a hug, they mean it.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Georgia particularly, on one occasion, was so sympathetic to me. It made me... Larry said to me once, he said, George Bush said that now that he's an old man, this is the young George, the 43rd president.
The fun one.
And George said, now that I'm old, he said, I can cry at anything, but now I cry at everything. And it is true. When you get to be my age, everything becomes very emotional to you. And I mentioned this to my partner, Larry, because sometimes we look back at pictures of our kids when they're young and you go, all the years, where have they gone? I don't have that anymore. Now my life is totally different. It's different, not in a bad way. It's just there's a lot of melancholy when you think back of when you're a young family, opening Christmas, or when we go to Tampa Palms for Easter and the Easter Bunny, remember?
Yeah.
You remember that story?
No, wait. What is it?
We go to Tampa Palms, which is a country club I joined and it was Easter Sunday, so we decided to go there for breakfast. And as we're walking into the entry, there's a big bunny rabbit. It was Robert the cook. He was in an Easter Bunny thing with big ears and stuff. He's like 6'4". He's big buddy. And I farted. You remember that?
No.
Oh, you don't remember?
No.
So we're walking up there and I farted. And this little girl, little bunny goes, Daddy, the Easter Bunny farted. And the Easter Bunny starts pointing at me. He goes like this. I said, Robert, shut up. You don't remember that?
No.
Oh, God. I don't know why I farted, but it happened. Apparently, it was pretty loud. Poor Easter Bunny got hit for it. And Robert's going, there's not, his big ears are flopping. He goes, not me.
I get so much shit for shitting my pants as much as I do. I learned it from you.
Oh.
You shit your pants more than anyone.
Do you remember Rodeo?
Known.
I was at Rodeo Drive with Cotty yesterday. And there's a brown Friday shirt.
Yeah.
And people still ask me, why do I wear that? I say it's a long story. The girls were little girls.
Girls were babies.
And we were on Rodeo Drive, and you bought me that sweater. I still wear the sweater.
Banana Republic.
Yes. And he gets me a sweater, and I said, I have to go to the bathroom really bad. And he goes, good luck. I said, what do you mean good luck? He said, they're not going to let you go to the bathroom here. So I said, okay. We were staying at the hotel in Rodeo Drive. What was it? Beverly Wilshire? Yeah. Right on the corner there.
Yeah.
Prominent
and you
place.
said, no, I got it. And I remember I said to you, I got in line. I was getting a sweater for you and a jacket
I said,
for
I got to
me.
go to the bathroom.
No, I said, Dad, you watch the girls. I'm going to get this sweater in this jacket. And he went, great. And then he came back without my girls and he goes, I'm going to shit my pants. What are we going to do? And I said, wait, where are my daughters? And he goes, fuck your daughters, buddy. We got a problem. He goes, no, I'm going to shit my pants right now. What do I do? I go, start walking.
Yeah, I know. I said, can you pick me up in the car and drive me? And you go, not my new car. And I go, you fucker. You're
he
kidding
was walking down Rodeo Drive and he shit his pants in his khakis.
Trying to get in the elevator was a problem.
Terry Bradshaw was standing at that elevator that weekend. Remember? He was standing.
It wasn't Terry.
Terry Bradshaw was standing in the hotel, and you go, I don't know about that guy, but he smells fantastic.
Well, no, I got up in the morning to walk on the treadmill, and he was next to me.
Yeah.
It was Saturday night or the Fox NFL.
If I said to Annie and Cotty right now, how many times did we get a phone call when we were me and Annie mostly? We get a phone call, and it would be Dad saying, hey, you got to come pick me up. I shit my pants.
I didn't.
How many times?
Now this is an illustration of his reality and my reality.
I'll call Annie right
No.
now.
This is what happened. He told me to fuck off. So I start walking back to the hotel. Now the hotel is a couple blocks away.
It's a solid 6 blocks.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I remember standing by a Bank of America building going, I'm going to shit myself. And then all of a sudden, God intervened. And I had a reprieve. And I ran like hell to the hotel. I got in the elevator. I got to the room, and the room was a mess.
You went out.
Is this going to be televised?
When we were kids. When we were kids.
Because I'm not going to court again.
I swear to God, we would get phone calls, and Mom would say, all right, everyone in the car, we go pick up your dad. He shit himself. He's in an orange grove right now. How many times did you shit yourself running?
I didn't keep camp. But I remember in Temple Terrace with Ty Trader, and it might have been Jimmy, Uncle Jim.
Yeah.
And I remember in Temple Terrace, I always had this issue. You have the issue too, bud. Don't hide it.
No, I know.
But I'm running, and we used to run like 10 miles every Saturday.
Dude, I shit my pants on the treadmill today.
Yeah. So I'm running, and then I said to Ty, I said, I can't. I have to stop. So I go behind a bush in Temple Terrace in a house, and I relieve myself.
Yeah.
And there's a woman up in her balcony going, what are you doing? and so I wrapped it up, and then she let her dog out. So I started running like hell.
That was my biggest fear. I still have a fear of dogs because of you running in North Tampa in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s. There were dogs were everywhere.
Yeah. Actually, the worst one was on Indian Mound Road. There was a German or a Saint Bernard.
Yeah.
Every time I ran, the damn thing would chase me. But and actually, I knew those folks.
Really?
Yeah. I ended up maybe 7 or 8 years ago going to that house because they lived on the lake I live on, and we had this hyacinth problem. And I said to the woman, I said, years ago, someone lived here like 20, 30 years ago, 30, probably 30 more, that had a Saint Bernard. She said, that was my mother. And I said, no kidding. And we chatted a bit about all that. But the Saint Bernard used to chase me every time I ran down there. And they lived on the lake. That same house, Mike Bartoletta just bought. It's almost 2 acres on Lake Bird. Mike Bartoletta bought it, and he's building a home now there for himself.
Really?
A big home, like 9,500 square foot. It's a beautiful home.
God.
You had a great childhood, I think, growing up.
I had the best childhood you could ever imagine.
We used to go to Gennaro's Pizza.
Is that in
Friday
Temple
night.
Terrace by the?
It's on Fletcher.
On Fletcher, yeah.
The pizza place.
I remember that place.
And Gennaro was a client of mine. We used to go there on a Friday night. We'd get a pizza for the three, because Connie was still alive then. I think that was when we were in.
Still alive?
No, I mean born. She was born then.
Yeah, I think so.
And we used to go there for pizza. Like that's $20. You have a pizza. Mom and I have a glass of wine, maybe. And he would also give me some bread to bring home, put in the oven.
Yeah.
But we always went on a Friday night. Took Jimmy with us.
That was probably the funnest part of my childhood was that all of my uncles from Philly moved down at one point to live with us, ultimately.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy.
They may not
Peter,
live with us, but they showed up at our house every night for dinner.
David, Jimmy, Peter, Joe, I think was even down there.
Bill stayed down there for a while.
Bill, I forgot about Bill, yeah.
Yeah.
It was, and you know what's interesting is that when we go to these reunions, it's like you grew up with all these 37 nieces, nephews that I have.
Yeah.
The sense of family, and I attribute a lot of it to the Hobsons, but also to Mom.
Yeah.
But it's like when you go there, you may not have spent much time with all of them are so close to you. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's insane. I mean, like, I get, yeah. I mean, it sounds shitty to say because I know, like, especially, you know, not everyone has big families, but like the biggest gift that Nana ever gave anyone was that she just kept having children. And then, I mean, like she had what, 9 kids?
Yeah.
And then
actually 10, one died in birth, but yeah.
What was his name?
Don't know. I don't know. But you know, it's so interesting because you have 8 uncles and all of those kids are, in my opinion, very close to each other and you.
That's why I did
Annie.
It's why I did my first special in Philly. Because I was like, I have so much family. I didn't think I could sell, 2 shows. And I have so many cousins, I ended up selling 8 shows.
And, we were at a wedding recently for PJ, which is Peter's son. And there's a couple photographs there that are very meaningful to me. Like there's the 8, well, I should say, there's the daughter, all your uncles, their wives, and me.
Yeah.
Because they figure there's 8 boys and 1 girl.
Yeah.
So they want all the in-laws together. So it's me and 8 women.
You look like a Mormon.
Yeah. Well, and I think Johnny's kids, either that or Jimmy's, gave me these sunglasses put on like the Blues Brothers.
I saw that picture.
And they kind of torment me a little. They say, "Hey, Uncle Al, put these on for the picture." And I put them on, and I think I'm even looking at them as
No, you're looking off to the side.
Because they handed
the
them
text
to me.
I got caught from Cotty goes, Dad's back on edibles.
Well, that's a little true. I went off of them for about a year.
Yeah.
And I can't sleep.
Yeah.
And I had so Matt,
yeah,
made me some pecans with some herbs.
Wait, hold on. He didn't make them this trip, did he?
No, he made them and sent them to me about a month ago. But I used to take like 20 to 40 milligrams a night just to sleep.
Yeah.
Because my mind, when I go to sleep, I think of everything that could happen that's adverse.
What did Billy Gardell call it? Catastrobating?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a terrible affliction. So every night I would go to sleep and then something would hit me. And I go, God damn. And then they keep me up all night.
But do you ever think that like catastrobating, like when you catastrophe think, do you ever think that maybe you're a higher elevated species because you're looking at the things. Do you remember the time I bought that ottoman?
I was going to say.
Do you remember the time I bought that ottoman?
That was the epitome. Well, there's 2 things that occurred to us.
Disasterbating.
We went out when you were living on Detroit.
Yeah.
We went out to get you a couple chairs and ottomans.
Yep.
And the ottomans the tops lifted off so you could store stuff in them.
Well, no. We looked at a bunch, and then there was one where you could lift off the top and store blankets. And Leanne goes, I want that one. And my dad goes, absolutely not. And I said, why? And he goes, your 2 moron kids are going to put each other in there, lock themselves in, they're going to suffocate and die. And I went, Dad, I think you're overthinking this. There are going to be blankets in there. And he goes, no, we're not getting that goddamn ottoman. And Leanne pulled me aside. She goes, your dad's not telling me what ottoman we can and can't have.
So we bought it.
I want that ottoman. And we walked it in the doorway where there was still the wood tile before you got to the carpet, that little wood area where it's the landing of the doorway. I placed the ottoman.
What happened?
Georgia lifted the top.
Says, Isla, get in.
Isla got in and Georgia stood on it. And she goes, Dad, want to see a magic trick? And I went, fuck.
I got the drill out and drilled holes in the bottom to let air in.
God, those 2 idiots.
Well, the other thing is we were at the mall, and you put Georgia in a child seat, whatever, in the restaurant in the aisle. And I said, don't ever put a child in the aisle because they could spill coffee on them. I think of awful things.
Within 5 minutes.
A guy comes and drops a pot of coffee.
Yep. Can I tell you the opposite? So my buddy Hutch, do you remember this?
I remember Hutch.
My buddy Hutch comes down. Hutch is, if you're listening, Hutch, you know I mean all this with love. He thinks of life very linearly. Like, the first time I met him, he said, I got a Frisbee stuck in a tree. I was throwing a stick at it. And he goes, hey, man, be careful. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you know how when you look up, your mouth automatically opens? And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess. And he goes, stick's liable to go right down your throat. And I was like, what? And he was like, it's happened to me twice. And I was like, okay. That's the way Hutch looks at life, is like very linearly.
I understand him totally.
And we all took Hutch and Isaac, his oldest son, to Frenchie's. We all went to Frenchie's. And Hutch put Isaac under the middle of the table. We did not see this kid. We didn't make eye contact with the kid.
This.
He put him under the table. And I go, don't you want him to be with us? He goes, no. He goes, he's fine. Not going to hear him. I go, what? He goes, better yet, no one spilled anything on him. And I was like, Hutch, I don't. And as he said that, someone spilled Coke everywhere. And he goes, see, what do I tell you? And it was like the greatest parenting move ever, where you were just like, good call, Hutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The girls always think I'm Captain Catastrophe
Yeah.
But, I'm not wrong.
You're still here.
And you're still here.
Yeah.
In one piece.
Yeah.
That's because of my caring. I lay up, when I go to bed at night, God forbid I think of something.
You're like Leanne, but Leanne thinks of it with busy work.
No, I'm not busy.
Leanne thinks like, I got to go take care of them cats. I just got another I can't. George wants to go work at a dude ranch. What am I going to do about my daddy? He got past a gallstone. And then she just is up just ruminating all night. I just drink as much water as possible and go, that's the best I can do.
Yeah. It's a real affliction because you can't sleep.
Would you get rid of it though?
Yeah. Oh, if I could. If I only could.
You definitely could.
And the edibles helped.
Yeah, but there's like real pills that like kill your brain.
I don't want to do that.
Like,
well, let me tell you, the one problem with edibles, if you take a moderate amount, it's fine. It calms you down. It gets you to sleep. You don't sleep well, but you get some sleep. If you take too much, the next day you kind of don't feel well.
You're kind of fog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after a while.
That happened to me one time on the road where we all took edibles and I woke up the next day and I was like, I can't wake up.
No.
It was 100 milligrams.
So I stopped totally. There's two things I stopped. I stopped eating butter.
Okay.
No. Well, with my last heart issue, I thought, why am I having two procedures for stents on my Widowmaker? I mean, because I eat salmon every day.
Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with me? But then I realized I probably eat a pound of butter a week. So,
but hang on, that's not an understatement. And you have to watch me butter to understand.
Every bite, I would put a piece of butter on. If it was a roll, I'd put
a pad
of butter on.
A pad of butter. The only person I've ever seen eat butter like you is Isla.
Yeah,
Isla puts a thick amount of butter on it, and you're like, oh. I mean, so much butter that you got to chew through the butter.
I would put butter on pretzels. I would put butter on Oreo cookies. Anything I ate, I added butter to it. So in December, after Christmas, I decided I'm not going to eat any more butter.
Really?
So I stopped. I haven't had butter since December. My cholesterol is now under 100. Wow. And I think
did you ever get my numbers from Ways to Well?
Yeah, I can go grab them on the laptop right now. 8 minutes to that meeting, by the way.
Okay.
Oh.
So what do we make for dinner tonight? Should we get Indian food and just order it in?
Indian food? Do I look Indian to you?
You don't have to be Indian to eat Indian food.
I don't eat Indian food.
Have you ever tried Italian food?
I love Italian food.
It's the same mechanism.
It's not the same.
It is. Indian food fucking rocks.
Yeah, we're not getting that.
Okay.
We're going to get something I understand. I don't understand. What is Indian food?
Oh, are you being serious? Have you never had Indian food?
Obviously not.
Are you
Have you
being
ever gone
serious?
to an Indian restaurant with me?
No, I have not.
So why are you asking me that?
Well, I thought maybe once in your life you would have experienced
Oh,
Indian.
yeah. Let's go to an Indian food tonight. What the fuck is Indian food?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. We're getting Indian food
No,
tonight.
I'm not eating.
We're getting Indian food.
I'm too old to change.
No, you're not.
No, I am.
You're going to discover you love Indian food, and
Yeah.
it's going to be your new favorite
Does
food.
it have curry in it? I
only
hate curry.
It's only curry.
I hate curry.
It's only curry.
I hate curry and I hate ginger.
They don't have ginger in it, I don't think.
Well, good for me.
It's Indian food is so fucking good.
But we're going to pass on that.
Tiki marsala. How great is tiki marsala? Chicken
Why are you
tiki.
asking her?
Because Pierce is regular white. Like
What do you
she's
mean regular white?
Paulson, you like Indian food? Everyone loves Indian food.
Who are these people?
They're just the people that work here.
I think they're part Indian.
No, they're not. Paulson.
Austin, come here. Let me see you.
Pete, how great is Indian food?
No, you're talking about.
Very white, and I love Indian food.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very white.
Well, you should have dinner with him tonight. Because I'm not.
Hey, is Leanne in this meeting?
Yeah,
Where's she at?
he's just downstairs.
Or are you setting up the laptop for up here?
Yeah.
All right, we should wrap this up.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This was great. I don't know if we'll ever air this, but this
Please
was great.
don't.
Please don't.
Please don't. Can I move this?
This episode was brought to you by The Machine.